Alright, hi YouTube. We just got an Eric Rosen raid. Go YouTube and go Rosen. Alright. So I have been playing in a tournament called the DCC Club Championship, DCC meaning Denver Chess Club. And I did stream it. So if you want to go through the VODs on my Twitch channel, it's there. You can watch it live and see what the commentators were saying. But right now, we're just going to look at what I was thinking, which is usually not the most sane things. So I was white, and I was playing an 1800. My brother played him last week. Nicholas Tice played him when he went to the Denver Chess Club. So we're kind of just taking turns on him. Anyway, all right. So d4, knight f6, c4, g6. The good news is I had actually been preparing for a King's Indian for the opponent I thought I was going to have, but this is not who I thought I was going to play. And none of what I looked at came in handy. Okay, so g3, bishop g7, bishop g2, castles, knight c3. We play knight c3 to discourage d5. Also because if he does what he did in the game, and he plays c6 here, I can play e4 to discourage this bishop f5 line. So people who play bishop f5 find e4 very annoying here. So e4 happens, knight d7, castles, and e5. Okay, and this was the first point where I kind of had to think, because this is similar to things I've looked at, except the pawn is on c6, which makes some differences in the pawn structure. So the main moves I considered were d5 and h3. The reason I considered d5 was just because, I don't know, seemed like it maybe made sense if he plays like knight c5, bishop e3. And I just wasn't really that sure here, because this is like a pawn sack that you can do, but I didn't think it was very good. And I figured even if I want to play d5 later, h3 will always come in handy to discourage knight g4, attacking my bishop on e3. So, yeah, also that, as Barney said. I mean, rook e1, I play b4. I didn't know. I thought h3 couldn't be bad, and I was right. It's the best move. And then he plays this weird a6 move, showing his intentions quite clearly. I think he maybe wants to play b5. I can't tell. But I think maybe that's what he wants to do. So here we get into the metagaming portion of this game. I played a game a little while ago, this game, that went something like this. And the only difference is there was like a trade on d4. He ended up with a pawn on c5. Okay, this is like the position I had. This is not the position I had. Where is the game? Is it this? Alright, cut this out. Never mind. I don't know where that game is. That's not the game I was looking for. But anyway, I played a game. Oh no, it was in the closed, wasn't it? Anyway, I played a game in the closed where instead of a c6 pawn, he had a c5 pawn, and I forgot to play a4, and then he just got to play b5 for free. So I thought a4 was kind of automatic here. Because of the counterplay. The interesting thing is that I should just play bishop e3, and a4 is an inaccurate move. And the reason is not so clear to me. I feel like I would have to study this to understand it. So if b5 here, this is the line I looked at, so b5, the response is c5 here. And already there's like so many possibilities because there's pawns and they're all touching each other, you know? And no one wants to break the tension, but at the same time I have threats. So, okay, if he does something goofy like this, I can just take with the knight and I'm attacking the c-pawn. And if he defends it, I just take on d6. And this I feel like my advantage is quite clear. And same goes with, like, if he plays this move. I mean, this is quite an obvious advantage. However, b4, and this is where it it's just hard for me to understand. So the computer line goes a little bit like this. So d5, already more complications happening. And almost every move in this line I have to play like one move, or it's not even that big of an advantage. But bishop g5 here, because we want him to recapture with the pawn, probably, is what we want. And if he plays this move, then we just take here, and that's a problem. And even though he's going to trade the queens and this knight won't be pinned anymore, I mean, my bishop's going to be quite good, and my c-pawn will promote at some point. So queen c7 stepping out of the pin, bishop takes f6, weird move, but it just kind of works out. Like this. And then even this position, I was like, why is this so good for me? I thought my knight looked quite stupid. I mean, yeah, okay, I'm looking at the b6 square, but his knight's pretty fucking good. Like bishop e6 defending the knight. I have to defend my pawn. And the reason the knight is good here in combination with this pawn structure is because I'm just gonna play b3, knight b2, knight c4. Which makes sense, but I mean this is more computer lines that I was just playing through to try and understand. And I have to play weird moves to keep the advantage. So in conclusion, okay, I think I stopped here because I thought my advantage was pretty obvious at this point with the weak pawns and the storming possibilities. And I probably just play bishop e4 and trade off the bishops so that this isn't so supported. So weak dark squares. But that's, I mean, that's, I don't know. That was a lot of things to think about in game 70 with a 10-second delay. And I didn't really consider anything other than a4. So that's why I didn't play it. Automatic. So rook b8, he's continuing to try to play b5. And at this point I was like, alright, if you want to play it, fine. I play bishop e3, which is best. I'm just developing a piece. And having some dark square control in case someday I get to put a pawn on c5 and then go like this. That would be ideal. That I understood, but doing this, I didn't. Okay, but so if he plays b5 here, I just take and play b4 maybe, and this, I mean, I wasn't sure about this, but I thought it looked okay. I mean, this is a backwards pawn. I think my main point was that the d pawn is just very weak. I didn't do a whole lot of calculation. I just thought, I don't know, this looks okay. You notice, I think there's a big difference in quality of my thinking in game 90 with a 30-second increment versus game 70 with a 10-second delay. Like, I'm not good enough to intuitively make correct decisions ever. I have to think about it. So, anyway, b5 would be a bad move. So rook e8, and I thought that maybe now if I'm ever going to take here or play d5, this is the chance, this is the point to do it. Because the rook makes more sense on e8 after something like e takes d4, because he's putting pressure on my e-pawn. But if he has no chance of opening the e-file, I thought his rook might be kind of dumb on e8, which is why I took on e5, which is not very good. d5 is a better move. This was the other move I was considering once again. And knight c5, I don't really have to take this. I can't play b4 right away because he's taking my pawn, so I have to play knight e1, and I'm defending. But b4 is coming next, so I don't see why I would take this piece. I think the doubled pawns are not enough to give up the bishop pair, in my opinion. I honestly couldn't tell you what I was worried about here. It's not that I thought d5 was bad, it's that I spent more time looking at this move, and I decided that after d takes e5, this is happening. Which was pretty much the only thing I understood in the position. And yes, if I can make that happen, that's fantastic. But it's kind of difficult to do. And I'm still around +1 here, but if I play d5, I'm like, I mean, probably at a higher depth, it's a little bit lower. It's probably only +1 point, like 2 or 3. But my move is okay. It's not very good. It's especially not good if he takes with the knight. He throws this in, because now I don't have a knight to put on c4. I think is the reason. Maybe there's a better reason for that being better. I was very happy to see him play d takes e, because his position is very cramped, and I think trading pieces is favorable for him. Okay, and then here we had the commentators asked me why I didn't play a5. Because a5 should be automatic, obviously. Because we're clamping down on the dark squares and preventing any b-pawn pushes forever. I kind of thought that if I play a5, bishop f8, and I wasn't really sure what to do here. Because now b4 is, I mean, harder to get in. I can't play rook b1 because my pawn hangs. And because I am not very good and I only had one plan, I mean, I was pretty focused on it. But I mean, the computer line is just like, I don't know. It says bishop c5, okay, queen e2. I mean, I don't understand this position. It's like, white is marginally better. I think he wanted a5 before d takes e, really. Because the only reason I brought it up here is because a5 is the best move here and I didn't play it. So a5 right here. Sure. I mean, if I feel like that's mixing ideas if I'm still committed to this, because now I can just do this, and now I have to come up with something else. I have to find another idea, which is apparently too much. So knight takes d4. I don't know. The d-pawn's weak. Knight e5. Like, I thought this was slightly, ever so slightly, no, I mean, looking at it now, it looks good, but I don't know. Something about it I didn't like. But you're right, it's probably good here. Okay, so I play b4 because I want to do this. I've seen Daniel do that a few times to people. For some reason, his opponents just let him do it, though. My opponents never let me. So my opponent played c5, which is a very bad move. It's an interesting one, but it's very, very bad. So the problem is he wants to prevent c5, knight d2, knight c4, knight d6. The problem is, okay, like if I do this, he has a5, which I did not see in the game. But I think if we had gotten to bishop f8, I would have thought about it before playing c5. And I don't have a good response here, because if my pawn hangs, then this hangs. So it's premature. So I don't really have the option of playing c5. If I play rook b1, maybe the threat is renewed, but maybe he plays b6. I can't. I don't know. I'm not sure. This is just sort of hard to get in with the bishop on f8. But c5 is not the way to do this, because okay, you've successfully prevented c5, but now you've made b5 even more enticing. Dubious seems like an understatement. Yeah, I didn't give it inaccurate. That was the computer analysis. I would probably say blunder. Because after bishop f8, it's around equal, but here white is just clearly better. But yeah, I mean, okay, we should look at it at first, because it is a pawn sacrifice. If I do take here, bishop f8, and I don't know, I mean, white is better, but I feel like I've lost some coordination. And this is kind of what he wants. So he'll probably get the pawn back eventually. I just figured b5 was keeping him in the the suit longer. Because, okay, the knight is very stupid here. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to combine a plan with c5 with putting the knight on d7, because the knight is staring at pawns. What kind of suit? A gimp suit, if you must know. And also, like, now the bishop is just sort of stupid forever, because it's just staring at a pawn. Also, he gave me the d5 square for a knight, so it's like, okay, I can't put a knight on c4 to d6, but I can immediately put a knight on d5 if I would like to do that. So he plays b6 kind of quickly, which I think makes some sense. And now I feel like it's time to put my queen somewhere so I can connect the rooks and use the d file. Especially if his queen is on d8. And I didn't really know how to do this. Ooh, thanks for the Twitch Prime. Canadian man, maybe? I don't know. So here are some candidate moves, right? Queen e2, queen c2, queen d3, rook a2. Those are some... I mean, maybe this. I don't know. Looks weird. I went with queen c2 because I'm defending my e-pawn in case of, like, bishop b7. I don't want to allow any unnecessary pressure, and I'm also kind of indirectly protecting the c-pawn. Queen c2 is a safe move. My opponent was like 1800. I'm not sure if he was high or low 1800. Stupid pieces need the most attention. It's just like people. I kind of owned myself there. I thought I was owning the chatters who chat a lot, but I actually am the one streaming, so I kind of owned myself. Anyway, automatic. Pretty much every move is better than my move. My move is also good, but that kind of shows how good the position is. I have really good center control. None of his pieces really know what they're doing. I mean, look at this knight. It's very unhappy here. This is the only plan I see for him, which is a good plan, but it takes time, and meanwhile the rest of his pieces are bad. So I think the computer liked queen d3 the best, followed by rook a2. I think I actually really like rook a2. Because at first it looks like you're showing intentions to play rook d2 no matter what, but... And I wanted to keep the option of, you know, staying on the a file. But this is keeping that option. You have the option to do this, and you have the option to do this. So double on either one, depending on if something opens. So I like rook a2. Flexible move, and I still get to choose where I'm going to put my queen, depending on what he does. Queen d6 like is another move I considered, but what happens after bishop f8? I wondered. This is a high level move. Queen d6. I kind of saw bishop f8 and was like, okay, I mean that looks dumb, but actually the bishop is worse on f8. Therefore, playing queen d6 and then queen d3 is even better than playing queen d3 right away, which I just think is neat. I think that's something that very strong players would kind of understand immediately. And it's like a way to draw the line between good players and me. I try and find moves like this where you're inducing small weaknesses, but I didn't really understand. I didn't understand I wanted my queen on d3, by the way. I thought I wanted my rooks here. But why not both? I don't know. Anyway, queen c2 is normal. And bishop b7, sure. He should be playing knight f8 and knight e6 and knight d4 every move. Bishop b7, rook fd1 is good. The reason I choose the f rook is because in case the a file opens, it might be quite good, especially if his queen is on c2. I can play rook a7 in some positions. It could be argued that you want to keep a rook on f1 if you want to play f4, but I'm not going to argue that point because I don't really agree with it. Queen c7. Okay, here's a point in the game where I'm not sure exactly how much time I had, but I was not budgeting my time well at all. I think that the most natural move on the board is knight d5. And it is the best move. But it looked like a move that would require at least a 10-minute think for me. Not for a good player. A good player would just understand that it's good and play it. But I am not good, so I would want to calculate every single line and make sure there isn't something I'm missing. So I went for something that looked like it simplified the position to me. A few times in this game, I didn't play the most natural, obvious move. Even though it was the best move every time. So that's something I need to figure out why I'm doing it. But okay, knight d5, and then I was like, okay, maybe he takes with one of these pieces, maybe the bishop, because it's a close position. And then I have to decide what pawn to take with, and that's as far as I got. I didn't do any more thought than that. I was like, that looks too hard. That looks like a really big committal decision. I'm not going to do that. And then I just played a move that's also okay. But I have a much bigger advantage if I just play knight d5. So, pause the video here. What pawn are you going to recapture with, and why? And we'll say after bishop takes. But I think the same is probably true of knight takes. I don't know why it wouldn't be. E takes doesn't give the opponent a passed pawn. Yeah, that's something to consider. Why do you want to take with the c pawn, Sorrow? I mean, this is something I think I would definitely find and play in a longer game. So what's our worst piece in the position? Alright, Nicholas Tice is an asshole and he just spoils things. Because he was there and he knows the answer. The worst piece is the knight on f3 followed by the bishop on g2. I don't know which one is worse, but they're both bad. And taking with the c-pawn fixes both pieces because you're preparing knight d2 to c4, which is what I wanted to play like a million years ago. And then I just kind of like, my pawn's on c4, it's not possible anymore. But it is, when I take with the c-pawn. And you're blockading this pawn. I mean, I found it a little uncomfortable to give him a passed pawn, but it's not going anywhere, and my knight is an absolute beast on this square. Plus, I have a passed pawn that's heavily supported. And after I play knight d2 to c4, then next I'm going to play f4 and fix my light-scored bishop. So, I basically fix both bad pieces with one recapture, and white is just like much better. It's like plus 2.5. Taking with the e-pawn is okay, but then I have to figure out what to do with my pieces, and this is the capture that really looked mysterious to me. I thought it looked very ugly. I really didn't like it, but I also was like, pass pawn. I mean, I didn't think long there. White is still a little bit better here, just not as much. So I decided that his queen was stupid here, and I want to simplify the position, and I was trying to think of the only way I could lose this position, and get rid of it. And I thought the only way I could lose is, I don't know, pressure. So I came up with taking on a6 followed by knight b5, which is stupid. And my point was that I don't have much time here. I need a long-term advantage like the bishop pair. And this seems like a way to get it. And that was pretty much my only thought. And it's true, I'm actually about, it's like plus 1.5 here. It was also plus 1.5 after e takes. So it's still a good position. But even in this position, I should maybe, no, I probably shouldn't. Maybe I should play knight d5 here. And if knight takes, c takes. This is like a much worse version of it because it's why did I mean my pawn was good here. And if I'm having a pawn on d5, the bishop's already taken care of. So the two ideas don't mix at all. If I'm going to take here, I'm not going to play knight d5 because they just don't go together at all. Knight b5, I'm attacking the queen. If he doesn't take my bishop, I mean my knight, he has lots of issues. Like queen c6, I already play rook d6, and I'm just coming in with a lot of tempo. Coming in fast. So he has to take, and I'm like, okay. By the way, I should still take this way. By the way. But that idea went over my head twice. I'm not gonna suddenly see it now, apparently. But I looked at this position and I thought long-term white is better, and this is like, I got rid of all of the possible breaks and pawn structure shifts for now. So I've cut down a lot on what I have to think about, which is what I wanted when you have no time. And it's okay, I have the A file, I have the possibility of making a pass pawn this way. I want to get my knight here, and I saw this, oops, I saw this plan or this plan of doing that. But the thing is that that takes a lot more time than 1, 2, 3, 4, you know? And also here, I mean, if he gets his knight to d4, am I even better? I don't really know. So, and then also I don't know how to fix my light squared bishop that easily. So he plays rook a8, which I thought was unnecessary. I thought he was just going to play knight f8, and I wasn't very happy with what I had done. But in this position, I remember, I don't know how much time I had, maybe like 15 minutes. Maybe I'm exaggerating. But what do I do? Like, I didn't really know. How am I supposed to know if I should take here or not? That was something I was struggling with a lot. If I should give him this file and just say that the D file is more important. I was just afraid of allowing counterplay somehow. I didn't see how it was happening, but I'm afraid. 25, okay. So in my head, I really felt like I was down more time than I was, I guess. Oh, I'm talking about the next move, I guess, is when I think I spent a long time, not super long here, knight d2, I mean, I have to fix this piece. I have to fix this piece. This piece is a lot harder to fix, especially with my pawns on light squares here. But, I mean, someday the bishops will break out and they'll be really good, right? That's the hope. So I thought for 5 minutes here. Okay. Knight f8, automatic. And here is where I had an issue, because in order to put my knight on d5 from this position, I have to play knight b1, and that hangs a rook. So now it's like, okay, how do I deal with this? And I came up with the wrong answer. There are 3 ways to deal with this, and I chose the worst one. I mean, h4 is probably a good move to throw in, regardless. Okay, I mean, not as bad as trading, but here are the 3 moves. Rook a2, rook a4, and rook a6. h4 is probably a good move to throw in. However, it's maybe a bit slow. So level up chess is about as good as me, so he's probably not very good. Because I played rook a6. Now, keep in mind rook a6 is still a good move. It's just the 3rd best. Rook a2 is best, which is not a move I ever considered. Not even for 1 second did I consider rook a2. It just didn't like pop into my head at all. And I'm not sure I would have played it even if I had seen it. I like it. I think it's a classy move. It's just not one that it's like, oh, rooks are long pieces, and it's just weird to move my rook 1 square. It's cute, because now he can't ever trade, because then my queen takes over this. And then I have 2 guys hanging out, do this. Seems pretty good. Rook a4 is also good, and if he takes, same situation. This is fine. I mean, it's white is just a little bit better. It's nothing special. My move is, I don't know, almost about the same as rook a4. So here's the problem. I didn't see that after rook a8, rook a1, he just goes here. And this is weird, right? Is this what he's doing? What do we think? It's hard to defend the pawn. My opponent didn't play this move. My opponent played queen c8, which is not so good. Which was a move I kind of looked at in this line, and it does completely justify what I did. Because again, I'm like +1.5 again. But he came up with a really good idea that I didn't see here, which was rook a7. And my whole point was that even if he gets another piece here and attacks my pawn, I just play a7, and this knight is impossible to get here. It's gonna take a lot of finagling. But this stops a7. So now it's like a big fucking problem. Like, how do I deal with that? So that is the question. So knight b1 is what I played, and knight b1 is inaccurate. I don't really understand why I didn't play this move now that it's pointed out to me. It seems obvious. I don't understand why I wouldn't play it. So he's gonna put a knight in here, either by doing this or by doing this. I think this is a very silly way to do it because he wants to put this knight here. I think knight e8 to c7 makes more sense, although my opponent tried for that. Knight e6 was played before queen a4? No way, really? He didn't play queen c8 here? Queen c8, queen a4. Oh, he played knight e6 first. Okay, I mean, it transposes. He should play rook a7. I mean, knight e6... It's not like I can play a7 here, so it's not like he's ruined anything. Thanks for the raid, Chess Dojo. Probably got some Chess Dojo fans in the chat. Knight e6 is fine. It's the same thing. I do prefer knight e8 probably to play knight c7 because I want this knight on d4. So I feel like this is kind of misguided. Okay, so this is the move order he plays apparently. I play knight b1 to do this. The knight came from f3 and it's doing a little boomerang to the d5 square. Okay, so now rook a7. Well, I'm not gonna enter the moves in all again. The computer only thinks this is an inaccuracy in the wrong move order, so I guess I'm good. Okay, so anyway, knight c7, and the reason I played knight b1 in this position, okay, well then just, it's fine, is because I saw that when the knight comes to c7, I can play queen c6, attacking the b pawn, and pinning the knight. So if he takes here, I can take, and if he takes, I take his queen. If he takes with the queen, I take his knight. And I was like, cool, that looks great, I'll play knight b1. The problem is, in this position, he has queen e6, which I didn't see from afar, but once he actually played knight c7, and I didn't think that move was possible, he played it, and now I don't have a choice. Queen c6 is the only reasonable move, because otherwise I'm just losing my a-pawn. I have no advantage, and I'm playing a lower rated player, and it's just terrible. So I had to do kind of a bigger think here, thinking about queen e6, and I came up with the line queen c6, queen e6, knight d5, and I was super excited to play knight d5, because if he takes my queen, I play knight e7 check, king f8, knight takes c6, and I'm attacking this e-pawn, and not only that, but because his king is on f8, or even if it's on h8, after I play knight e5, because of where his king is, I can take on g6 with check, where I can't do that if his king's on g8, because when I take on e5, he will have a knight e4 tactic, and if I take back, he takes my knight. But because the king is on one of these squares, I have the intermezzo of knight g6, and I was so happy with this. And then he did that. I was like, what the fuck is that shit? Notice he's going backwards. Like, almost all mistakes, especially positional ones, are going backwards and retreats. And the same is true of this very special move. So quickly I'll show the line I'm talking about. So knight d5 here, hanging my queen. Takes... I don't know where he puts the king. Let's say king f8. Makes more sense to put it in the center. I'm attacking here, so he has to take. Knight takes e5. And after knight takes e4, I have knight g6 check. And I am slightly better. I don't know if I can win this, but I mean... I mean, at this point, I just have to not be worse. And if I can find a position where I'm slightly better, I'm happy. Because I kind of fucked my position up bad enough. Yeah, slightly better. Boom! But I was stoked. I was stoked about that shit. Anyway. And I was sad because even though my position is much better after this move, I was sad that I didn't get to play knight d5, because this is such a good move. Because I'm also attacking his knight. I should also say that he can take on a6, and taking back is not ideal, but I can play like rook d1 here and claim that, I don't know, it probably transposes, possibly. But this I did not expect at all. And then kind of without thinking, I just played knight d5. And you'll notice that my move has 2 question marks over it. I'm +3 after this move, I'm winning. However, this is just like a very obvious one that I didn't consider. I'm attacking his rook, and his queen is still pinned. But I think that the reason I didn't even consider this is because, okay, I have like 10 minutes, and this was the only move I considered in every other line, because the only move I considered was queen e6, because it's the only move to get out of the pin. And this doesn't get out of the pin, but I think I just... I don't know. Automatic. So I think it's funny that when it was correct to put the knight on d5, I put it on b5, and when it was correct to put the knight on b5, I put it on d5. To show you the type of chess player I am, that type being bad. So I'm winning. It says double question mark, I just could have been +8. There are lots of threats to address. The pawn on b6 being a big one. Knight e7 winning the queen being a bigger one. And his pieces are stupid. Like, they're so dumb. So it makes sense to take care of one of those threats and trade some pieces here, because my pieces are much, much better than his pieces. And here I correct me if I'm wrong, I think I went under 5 minutes here, taking on b6, I believe. Knight e7 is more accurate, followed by queen takes b6, which I didn't consider because it would hang a piece, except for the fact that he's getting mated. That's a little bit above my level to see with no time. I just took the pawn right away, which is also good. So I stopped keeping score here. I mean, Pav has the logs to correct me if I get something wrong, but I just kind of put it in from memory from here. So this is a very good pawn, so he should probably take it, and I should probably take back. And then he takes with the queen, and then I blundered. What should white do here? I thought I only had one move. I think I thought for a while here, and I was kind of disgusted, because queen takes c5 is what I played. And I thought it was the only move because it defends my c-pawn. But after bishop f8, I mean, I had to think about that. I saw a line. But actually, this is not... He's... What? I mean, his knight's hanging. I don't know why I didn't, like, figure that out. That never occurred to me. This was just automatic. And then here I'm like, okay, my queen has no squares. So I'm giving up my c-pawn anyway. And I saw a knight e7, and I saw, okay, if he takes, I mean, his dark squares are getting fucked. But I also saw that king g7, I thought maybe I have to play bishop h6 or something, and knight f5. Because if I just take on e5 like I plan to do, he has f6. And I'm losing a piece. But I also I was under 5 minutes and I couldn't find a move other than this. So I kind of played this as almost a bluff. Apparently it's not even a bad move, because if he does go king g7, yes, this is a blunder. No, it's not. What the fuck? I thought white was lost here. White is not lost. White to play and be equal. I'm not finding this over the board. I'm not finding it. It's just never gonna happen. Oh yeah, someone thank you for pointing that out. Oops. Knight takes c7 would be awesome. Except for the fact that he gives me a check and takes my queen. Okay, so I thought I was losing here. But after knight f5 and he takes it, and then I go here, and then it's like equal. I mean, I guess his king is weak enough that I'll get checks. I don't know. E5. I'm not finding this over the board. I mean, that's crazy. But you can understand why I thought I was losing here, because there's, I mean, yeah, if I move my queen, I'm just losing a piece. And he's attacking my queen, so I thought I had to move it. So anyway, here, if he was going to do this, I was actually going to play bishop h6 followed by knight f5. And I was like, he plays knight g7, I'm probably losing. But I'm not, it's equal. I was just bullshitting. Like, I just thought that I didn't know I had another move, basically. I stumbled into this. I stumbled into the, you know, the best continuation, and I saw this idea, but I thought after knight g7 I was losing, but it's equal. I obviously don't want to draw, but I could also play like h4 here. I thought this move was maybe hard to... Oh, no, it's not. I can just trade and then move my knight. This move, maybe? It's a very complicated position, and this pin is terrifying. So if he had played king g7, I would have been very unhappy. But my opponent took on e7, and now I have 2 bishops, and he has 2 knights, and he can take on c4, but his dark squares are super weak, and I have 2 bishops, so I'm very happy. And, okay, I got gaslit so hard in the postmortem by the commentators, okay? I got gaslit so fucking hard. They were saying that I'm an idiot because I didn't play bishop h6. I played bishop c5 instead. And they were saying I'm an idiot because in this position, after knight g7, if he goes here, I can take. Which is true. But in the game, I looked at this move. I just couldn't remember that I had done that. And I didn't see how to proceed from here. Which is why I played bishop c5. So, fuck. Well, mostly Daniel. Daniel was the one who was making fun of me. So fuck Daniel. So this is a checkmate threat. So my opponent played queen c1 to play queen h6. He should just play h5 and not be afraid, because his queen is nicely defending the f7 pawn. Why not queen e2 again? I mean, I can repeat moves if you're talking about queen e7. Knight g8, queen e7, knight g7. I mean, we're just repeating moves. But anyway, my move is also good. It's just sort of requires thought, because if I just go into this, I mean, what is my queen doing here? His king is super safe. However, I can but my opponent did this, which I think is natural. And I blundered again by taking a pawn. I blundered into a +3 position. I'm +6 here. I think the computer wanted bishop f1, which is a classy, very classy move, but I am a no-talent ass clown. So I took a pawn, and I am only +3. But after knight e6, bishop a3 is best. And now I just have to rearrange my pieces, and I was like, okay, I mean, in a perfect world, he'll just play queen g7 and fall for this tactic. And then he did. I'm not sure what he should do here, because this is annoying, and I can still do this. But here, this fails to this move, so I'm attacking the knight. It's pinned. He can't play queen f8, and if he defends his knight like he did in the game, I can just play bishop d6, attacking it a second time. And if he takes, then he loses his king. And if he pushes his f-pawn, it's the same thing that happened in the game. Like, he's defending his knight, but he's not really, because when he takes back, it was more of a, I'm removing the guard, and I'm taking this knight. It's not about the knight on c7, it's about the knight on e8. And then we played some moves. I know that not all of these are correct. This is just the basic... Yeah, it was something like this, and I considered trading the queens here. But I was not so happy with being left with an h-pawn and my bishop, and I thought that would be a goddamn disaster, so I just kept the queens on. He played this move, and I saw my opportunity, and I went for it. So I actually got to end the game in a checkmate with probably under a minute, maybe even under like 20 seconds on the clock. So I did win, however, I didn't understand a single pawn structure change in the entire game, therefore I think it's a loss, and I should feel bad. I need to study more. Basically is what it boils down to. I need to get better. I think that I touched on everything that I was supposed to. Knight B1 was a good idea. It only said inaccurate because I put in the wrong move order. In the other move order, it's not inaccurate. It's good. Thank you. But I mean, it's like, I just need to connect the dots because I understood that I wanted my knight on c4. I just didn't understand I could make it happen. Basically. Diagnosis skill issue, yes. And being afraid of passed pawns. Rook a6 was risky. Yes, and I actually remember playing that move as like a last-minute decision. I wasn't planning on playing Rook a6 at all. I just like wasn't happy with the line I had been looking at, and I just decided to play it. I do that sometimes, and I really should stop doing it. It's really, really bad. That's how I make most of my blunders. Flashback to bishop takes g6. Remember that? When winning feels like losing means you're getting better. I mean, I hope so. How did I look at this game for an hour? I wanted to only do like 20 or 30 minutes. I don't know how this happens to me. Okay, but anyway, pawn structure skill issue.